Welcome to One Interview, One World. This is Lainey Kay, and this is a show about interviewing people from all walks of life because everyone has a story to share and we can all learn from each other. I hope you enjoy listening. Today I am with Casey Waesche, who has written a critically acclaimed children's book called I'm the Boss of Me, and a book series to help our little ones become great bosses of their actions, thoughts, words, and bodies. Casey has an attractive resume of past jobs from managing a band that toured the US and Europe in her 20s. She has done large scale event planning for festivals in New York City, the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., and events in Seattle. She has been the executive director for an NFL foundation and spent half a decade plus fundraising for national nonprofits. Casey has helped start and grow small businesses in DC and Florida. She has traveled the globe, ridden a camel in Egypt, danced to the Hall of Mirrors in Versailles, volunteered in soup kitchens, sewn her own clothes, waited tables, helped strangers, and is just now learning how to cook. She has recently survived breast cancer and is super excited to share this new chapter in her life, being an author. So thank you, Casey, for being on the One Interview, One World podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. So tell me a little bit about you, maybe about yourself growing up, and because you sound like such an adventurous type of personality with all of the things that you've done, it'd be interesting to see what made you.
Sure. So I'm from kind of an eclectic background. I grew up right outside of Washington, D.C. And in Washington, D.C., everybody from every country congregates there. There are embassies, there are politicians and their crew. My mom is originally from Iowa, so from the Midwest. So I have a lot of those Midwest values and upbringings. My dad's family is from New England, so I have a lot of New England things. They met in DC, back in the 60s. And I've been fortunate to just travel. My mom was actually a stewardess back when they called them stewardesses for Eastern Airlines. And so I think with her and our whole pioneering family background, you leave the East Coast to go to Iowa. And then she left Iowa and became a stewardess with Eastern Airlines. There was always just a travel bug in all of us. I think it's just part of us.
Mm-hmm.
So when I graduated high school, I took off and went to England with one of my friends, traveled around Ambleside and Keswick in the Lake District up to Leeds. And, I'm 18, just traveling with a backpack. And I never lost that spirit. I just always, anytime there was a chance to leave the country, I would leave the country. I have gone... I've moved to Seattle. I've moved to New York City. I moved to Florida. So I'm hitting the kind of three corners. I guess I have to hit Southern California at some point to box in the US. I want to live in a square state at some point. I'd love to live in Colorado. When I moved to Seattle, I took up snowboarding at 37. I had never snowboarded before, skied before. And I was like, well, I'm here. Might as well try it. So I'm kind of one of those people that believes you got to try it. And if it doesn't work, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you fail at something, that's fine. It's how you recover from that failure. And you can fall down. I've fallen down hundreds of times. It's how you get back up, and don't be afraid to fall down again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of a little bit about me. I'm from a cosmopolitan city and I have Midwest roots, and I've just had a really wonderful life.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like it. Yeah, very adventurous, that's for sure. If learning how to snowboard, no.
Yeah. Well, I was there with I was there with my son, and I wanted us to be able to do stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
And actually it was right when we wrote this book when he was about 7, and that's a whole other story. But I wanted to be able to do stuff with him. And I knew he was going to learn snowboarding and everything from his friends and stuff. Oh, and you'll have to pardon people walking behind. I'm stuck in Florida at a campground. So you'll see little people or you'll hear things here and there as they walk past one of the places over there. But I wanted to be able to do things with him. So I said, all right, we're going to go. It was 45 minutes from our front door in Seattle to Snoqualmie. And I just bought us private lessons. I rented snowboards. I fell down numerous times, and so did he. And we got back up. He's 20 and he loves snowboarding. He carves through the snow and the whole bit, is amazing at it. I still fall down a lot because I'm in my 50s now. So I might switch over to skiing. You don't fall as hard when you go skiing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I probably wouldn't do it. But I haven't skied in so long. I would probably have to take lessons again to start all over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's I plan on doing that because it has been, gosh, it's been 7 years since I've been up on a mountain. All
Mhm.
right, we've got to fix that. That's got to change.
So tell me about your travel experiences since you've traveled so much.
Sure. Well, anytime somebody said, "Hey, do you want to go?" My answer was always yes. I went with a friend to Egypt. She had a friend from college that was teaching at the University of Cairo, and she said, she's like, "Hey, do you want to go visit Gordon in Cairo?" Well, yes, I do. Who's Gordon? Sure, whatever. So she and I just took off again, backpacks. We were about 24 at this point in time. I've been to Greece a couple times, one of my favorite countries in the whole world. I just love the history there, the Greek Isles. My cousin actually, so I'm from Alexandria, Virginia. My cousin got married over in Greece. Her high school sweetheart, his family came over from Greece, and but he was raised in the U.S. He was born in the U.S. Well, when they got engaged and got married, they wanted to go do it over in his family's town down on the Peloponnese, and so they said, "Hey, do you want to go?" And yes, of course. We were the only people from her side of the family that went. So my mom, my brother, and I all hopped on a plane and went over to Greece, and that was back 94. So that was, I guess I was 28, 29, somewhere in there. I've traveled all through Germany, France. I was actually born in Germany because my dad was in the army. So I was born in Stuttgart, Germany. And for my 21st birthday, my dad took me back to Germany to show me all the places that, they used to carry me around in, not quite a car seat. They didn't have those so much back in the 60s and 70s. But we toured through Garmisch-Partenkirchen, which is a beautiful ski resort up in the Swiss Alps, um, Austria, Switzerland. I loved it. I would go to England a bunch of times back and forth. The Christmas time in London is amazing. It's just stunning. Everyone should do it. It's magical. When I was in Seattle, I made sure to try and do West Coast things. Went out to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, went out to, there's a great little Bavarian town called Leavenworth right outside of Seattle, about 2.5 hours. And it's like, well, they've actually filmed Hallmark Christmas specials there. It's literally just it's a year-round Christmas Bavarian town. So I love to travel. I have not made it to Asia yet. That's going to be, that's on the bucket list, is getting over to Asia. My husband is retired Navy, and he was actually stationed over in Asia for most of his career. And I met him later in life. And so he hasn't been to Europe as much as I've been to Europe, and I haven't been to Asia at all. So we're going to spend some time over the next couple of years showing each other the different beautiful things we've seen on the different sides of the world.
Mm-hmm. That's so great. And then
Yeah.
I love it when people do get to travel because you get to be exposed to the different cultures.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
do you have any stories like that where you have some experiences or things that you learned from traveling?
Yeah. So traveling is one of the things that's so amazing about traveling, and the way me and my family always did it, was we didn't go stay at the Ritz. We didn't go stay at fancy, hotels. We wanted to get into the culture. We wanted to sit with the locals. And so like in Italy, my favorite city in all of Italy is a little town called Siena. Now, the history of Siena is that during the Renaissance, it was a rivalry between Siena and Florence, and who was the better city. Well, throughout time and all this, Florence was the one that came and became the more known city, bigger museums, a bigger church, the whole bit. and it's beautiful. Everyone should go to Florence. But my favorite city was Siena. It was smaller. You could sit in the town square and just people watch. And it's amazing. And you watch people, just the little daily routines of coming and getting a little coffee, sitting, watching. I just like the littler places like that.
Hmm.
One of my favorite stories about me was when I got trapped in the Great Pyramid Cheops in Cairo in Egypt when the lights went out. And this was back in 1994, and they were having rolling brownouts. And me and my friend Lisa went again to go visit her friend Gordon. And we went to go do kind of the touristy things, but we rode on a bus to get there. And on the bus there were chickens and corn cobs and all kinds of things. And Lisa and I were just like wide eyed and just like, oh my gosh. And we had to make sure that we had long sleeve shirts and long sleeve pants and things like that, so that we didn't expose too much skin. That wasn't part of the culture. Gordon gave us an entire to do and what not to do. So when he picked us up at the airport, we were dressed appropriately. We got into a cab and we went to his house where he and his girlfriend were living. Next day, we go to the pyramids. And this is before they had the beautiful light show and everything. I want to get back there one day to see that. But we go in, it's just this giant structure, as you've seen in all the pictures. It's huge. And you have to climb up these rocks to get to, kind of like 1/3 up, maybe 1/4 of the way up is the entrance there. And there's an Egyptian guy sitting there, and we'd been there and we knew that there were rolling brownouts and that electricity would cut off and stuff like that. So Lisa goes down into the pyramid first, and then I go down, and then Gordon's behind me. And it's just this big empty hall, probably like, I don't know, maybe 8 feet wide by 10 feet tall. It just has a light bulb every 10 yards or so. And we're going down, and, we're kind of being goofy and just like, oh my gosh, we're about to go in the pyramid, and we're going to ascend into the burial chamber. And we're going through all the various different, we looked at all the ivory and stuff that had alabaster that had been pulled off Cheops and stolen throughout the years and stuff. So Lisa's in front of me. She goes up 1, 2, 3, probably 4 steps. I turn and look, and I see this little picket fence right to the left of me. And in my head, because I was a goofy 20-something-year-old, I said, oh, that would be where the mummy comes from, and all the Johnny Quest movies, or all the, that's where the mummy would come from, Scooby-Doo. And then I put my first foot on the first step to go up like 10 steps into the burial chamber, which is cursed, and allegedly, and all the lights went out. And I was in pitch black, and I panicked. It was the first time I panicked in my life. I felt Lisa run past me. I went flat against the wall and just sat there and was like, okay, don't move. Don't let the mummy know you're here. That was all I could think, because I was, it's the last thought in my head. Lights go out, panic. So I'm flat against the wall going, don't let the mummy know I'm here. Don't let the Lisa and Gordon are up at the top going, Casey, are you okay? And in my head, I'm going, shh, quiet. The mummy's going to hear you. And they finally sent one of the guys down with the torch to get me. I was fine. There was no mummy there. But it's just an interesting thing to be in a different culture, to, be afraid of mummies. Most people don't experience that when they travel. But I've just had lots of fun little experiences like that. Every city you go to is different, and every country you go to, up in, say, like London is very busy and is constantly moving, very similar to like a New York City. But then you go up into the Lake District to Ambleside and Keswick, and it's rolling, beautiful, calm. One of my other favorite places to go was Ireland. My dad moved over to Ireland when back in 2007 as kind of a sabbatical between work and things. So went over to visit there and watched a rugby game in Paddy O'Reilly's pub in Munster. And that was the year that Munster won the Heineken Cup, and we were there for it. I didn't know what it meant, but I was happy. Everybody in the pub was happy.
Hmm.
So it's just wherever you go, you can find interesting things. And for me, it's always about the experience
Hmm.
and what you learn, who you're with.
Hmm.
I'm a big believer of it doesn't matter where you are, it's who you're with that matters. Now, if you're with somebody and let's say you're in Egypt, that's awesome. That works.
Absolutely.
Same with Ireland or anywhere else.
Hmm.
So I've just had a lot of really, travel has always been fantastic, even when it's not. You know, Lisa and I one time were traveling to Greece, and we had to sleep on the floor of a Greek airport because we were actually, it was coming from Egypt to Greece. There was a delay of like 7 hours. We had to sleep on the floor. When we got up, they don't form lines in Greece the way we were used to queuing up kind of anywhere. And Lisa was kind of in charge and was going first, and she was getting elbowed by all these little, old Greek women that are kicking her aside and pushing her, and she's like, I don't know what to do. Am I being rude? Do I push back? And I'm like, we can wait. We can wait. And so it's just interesting the things you find out along the way.
Hmm.
And like I said, I can't wait to go through Asia, and I know my husband can't wait to go through Europe. We're excited to keep learning new things.
Yeah. So with the travel bug that you had, did you ever like quit jobs, or was it done in between jobs or things like that to make it happen?
No, it was always vacation. It
Okay.
was always vacation. Yeah. I have a friend who did an amazing thing. It's called the remote year. And what he did, and we're hoping to figure out a way, my husband and I, that we can do this. But you take a year and every month you go to a different country, but you have to be able to work abroad.
Hmm.
And with what he did, he was a consultant. So he went from started out in Croatia, went through Europe, went all the way around, came through Asia, went down to South America, and every month was a new country. He just traveled every day. He would work, do his work, then, go on whatever tours. You could be with the group, you could be, on your own solo, you could branch out, meet up at a different point. It just sounded amazing. And it was life changing for him. The thing was, you had to work. It wasn't vacation. You weren't just sitting here, you know,
Right.
being a tourist. You were working, you were being productive. A lot of people would go and they would teach English to different countries and things like that. So they would stop off in a city, get lined up with wherever they were teaching English for that little bit. And I can't wait to do it.
Yeah.
We have to wait for my husband to retire and then we can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or there's those other things where you go stay with families and you do work for the families. I don't know what that's called, but I've heard
Oh,
of
I
that
don't
too.
like au pair things
No,
or,
it's not that. It's my daughter's done it. And so she went and stayed for, I think, 2 weeks with a family in Switzerland. And
yeah.
so they got to stay there for free, but they were helping with whatever the family wanted them to help with. And so I
Oh,
don't know
neat.
the name of the program, but that's a program.
Yeah, there's another thing that we want to do because we have an airstream. There's think you can do seasonal work. So you show up at farms and you can pick all the apples and grapes and things like that. And you get to stay there overnight. You probably get to take some apples with you. And then you move on to the next farm. And so there's a whole circuit of doing things like that too.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah,
Doesn't it?
I
I
would do
know.
that. Yeah, that's
The My Iowa blood is
yeah,
going like, okay, can we do corn? What can we do?
so neat, so neat. So
Yeah.
tell me about when you were managing a band. How did that happen? And then a little bit about doing that.
Sure. So, I can say so about me is I've never had a I'm going to be this and then I went out and did it. Except until I wrote the children's book. Everything just kind of has always fallen into my lap. So with the band, it was a jazz band called the Flying Neutrinos. And it was a New Orleans jazz band back in the 90s. I lived in the same apartment building as the lead singer. She and I met and became friends. And I was working for a defense contractor that had opened a office managing an office on Park Avenue. She and I lived in the same apartment building. And she was like, "Do you want to come to, one of my gigs or something?" And I was like, "Sure, whatever." I walk into what it was, the Supper Club in New York City. which is this beautiful venue. And she's up on stage in this black velvet dress singing Frank Sinatra songs. And I just was like, this is amazing. And so she and I became friends, and I was helping her, and I asked my boss at work, and I said, hey, can I use the Xerox machine to, we were trying to get some things together and trying to promote her band. And he was like, absolutely, because he loved her too. So we put together a little press kit. And then one weekend, we took my car and drove down to Atlantic City and dropped press kits at every single casino. We didn't hear anything for months. And then one day she got a call from the Showboat Casino, and they wanted to book her through the summer. And so she saved up all this money. She was going to make an album. And by this point in time, the defense contractor had closed down in New York City. So I was moving back to Virginia. She came down one time to Virginia and was like, hey, I want to hire you to be my manager. And I was like, well, I have no idea how to do that. I was like, how about I be your friend and I just help you? And she's like, no, you're going to be able to get things done. And I'm like, yeah, I really have no idea what I'm doing. She said, listen, I'll pay you this much per week. We're going to do this. You're going to get gigs. And I was kind of like, all right, well, I didn't have anything else to do because the defense contractor had closed down their New York office. So I was like, all right, I'll go back to New York. So I went back to New York. 3 years later, she had a $250,000 record deal. We had an entire team at that point. I don't want to be like, and I got her a $250,000 record team. We had amazing people in the industry, Jonathan Daniels, Lenny Johnson. There were a bunch of people that really were following the band and lifting us up and stuff. And I had always told her, once you get a record deal, I'm out, because you need a professional manager to manage you. I want you to, I don't want to hold you back. So she went on, and she's been called the modern day Billie Holiday and things like that. She's been on a couple movie soundtracks and stuff. But so with all that, we signed a record deal with Fiction, which was the record company, if you know the band The Cure, with Robert Smith. Well, Robert Smith was playing on Saturday Night Live, so he came and saw us live at Coney Island High. All the kids were swing dancing. This was right after Swingers, the movie, had come out. And he was like, I want to learn how to do that. So I was teaching Robert Smith how to swing dance in the basement of Coney Island High on St. Mark's Street. And that was crazy for me, because I had all the Cure albums.
Yeah.
Then we went over to Europe because we signed with them. And we traveled all throughout Europe. We did, I can't think of the name. I'm in my 50s, and this was back in my 20s. So I'm going to stumble. Belgium, we had this great little club. My favorite club that we played was called Magazine, and it was in Ghent in Belgium, which is just the cutest city ever. And European crowds and jazz, you would have thought we were the Rolling Stones. You really wouldn't. They were. And it was a small place. It was, packed. It was something like you would see in the movies. It was amazing. And it was a wonderful way to spend my 20s.
Yeah,
in
what
New
an
York
experience.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah. So after that, when I left that, I started doing other things. I started helping out. There was a theater festival called the New York International Fringe Festival. And the Fringe festivals all started in Edinburgh in Scotland. And it's a theater festival where people go and kind of premiere their work, or they take, like, one of the best shows I ever saw was Finger Puppet Macbeth. And they could only have 9 people in the audience. It was 9 folding chairs. And this guy is there going like, out, damn spot. Is that a dagger I see before me? And it was all finger puppets. And he'd be over here doing, switching his finger puppets out. And then, here comes, all name the Macbeth things. And it would happen. Actually, one show, several went off Broadway, but one actually made it to Broadway, a show called Urinetown. And then during the great crash back in when was that, 2008 maybe? Yeah, no, I think it was maybe 2008, maybe before then. Yeah, 2004, 2008, something in there. Broadway kind of petered out, and they haven't come back yet. But it was an amazing musical about what would happen if the world ran out of water,
Oh,
and all the public toilets were you had to pay for. Like having a bathroom was a privilege. And so it's a very interesting and actually incredibly timely topic. Somebody should really think about bringing it back, because it's an entire commentary on society and what happens when the super wealthy are in control of basic needs that shouldn't be,
right.
that shouldn't be kept from
Right.
people. So,
What was it called again?
so the show was called Urinetown,
Oh,
like
you're
urine.
in town. Okay, got it.
Yeah, like you like pee. And then it's just a genius show. And actually, as we're talking, I feel like I should call somebody and say, bring it back. I just don't have anyone to call. So
What are some life lessons that you feel like you've learned so far?
well, I think life in general, and something that was hard for me to learn was that it's okay to fail. It's okay to fall. It's okay to stumble. It's okay to get things wrong. One thing in my family, we have a really hard time being wrong. You can be at the dinner table and somebody will say something like, the sky is blue. And then somebody else will say, actually, it's every color except for blue. And it's your eye and the prism and then it becomes, and then people are pulling out their cell phones to prove each other wrong. I'm not joking. This is what happens over Thanksgiving and stuff. I've moved to Seattle. I've moved to New York. I've moved to Florida. I keep moving away and I experience different people and different things. And I've realized it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make a mistake. It's all about how you recover from that, how you apologize for it if you've hurt somebody, how you just go about life. And, instead of being all upset that you made a mistake, sit back and go, what was the lesson I was supposed to learn? Learn the lesson. This is actually something that my son is now 20, and we're down here in Florida. We're kind of stuck here. There's a gas crisis going on, and we have an airstream, and we're stuck here in an RV park because we can't get up the coast back to Washington, D.C., to Alexandria. But we saw him on Mother's Day, which was last Sunday, 2 Sundays ago. And he's 20. He has a full academic scholarship to the seventh best public university in the nation. And he said to me, you know what, Mom? I hate to say this. I was like, what, honey? And he goes, you were right. And I'm like, what? Wait, say it again. Let me record it. Let me
Yeah.
videotape it. I want to be able to. But he said, you were right about different things. He says, my friends are now calling me wise and stuff because I'm just quoting what you said. And I'm like, well, what was I right about? Like, what? Tell me. This is important. And he said, you've always told me that life is going to teach you lessons. And the quicker you learn whatever lesson it is, then you get to move on to the next one. So learn the lesson as early in the process as possible. An example I give is just learning how to ride your bike, right? So you get up, you take the training wheels off, and you're going to wobble a little bit, and then you're going to fall to one side. So you get back up, and you're just going to keep going until finally you're going straight and you're able to just ride your bike. But if you fall and you're like, I am never going to ride my bike, well, that's going to delay your ability to learn how to ride your bike. And it's going to give you anger and emotions. And you can be frustrated, absolutely, but turn the frustration as much as you can positive so that you can keep moving forward. And a lesson that this is kind of a heavy lesson that, but I think it's a good example. There are people that will go out and have a couple drinks and they get in their car and they drive home. Well, they didn't get caught by the police. They didn't get in a car accident. They didn't cause any harm. So they go out again and they have a couple more drinks, but this time they had a close call. But that doesn't stop them. That was their life giving them a kind of heads up, like, hey, you had a close call. If you don't learn the lesson, then you're going to go have a couple drinks and you might get in a little fender bender. And that's, it gets worse. And if that doesn't stop you, well, then you might get in a full-on crash. And if that doesn't stop you, you might end in jail. So it's learning that lesson the very first time. And if you can learn other people's lessons, oh, so you shouldn't drink and drive. Okay. All right, you learned that the hard way. I will learn it from you. And so when he told me that, as he was counseling his friends and stuff, like, you've done this like 3 times. When are you going to learn? And apparently he was like, oh, I sound like my mom.
That's really nice
So,
to know that you influenced him, he took it in, and now he's teaching others. So that's pretty cool.
it is. It's neat because I think that is just a life lesson that if everybody had it, if you realize, oh, it's not your failure. You fall down when you're riding your bike. Okay, get back up. You learn that gravity pulls that way.
Mm-hmm.
Now you might overcompensate and find gravity pulls this way. So now how are we going to compensate just to keep you going forward?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he said I was right.
Beautiful explanation, and it helps people get what you're talking about. I think it's a wonderful life lesson. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I finally learned it in my 30s. I wish I had learned it in my teens or my 20s or, somewhere there, but I finally was like, hey, everything, if I learn this and I don't do this, look, now I can go learn something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm the Boss of Me. That's your book.
Yes.
It's a really cute name. So tell us, how did you come about writing the book?
So again, it goes back to my son.
Mm-hmm.
He was a very smart child and is still a very smart young man. And he would get frustrated with his teachers. So I would constantly get letters home from his various teachers saying, can you have him not tell the whole class I'm a liar? That was one time. Oh yeah. He was 7 years old, raises his hand, and his teacher says, yes, Owen. And he said, you're a liar. And I'm sorry, what? You're a liar. You said we were going out to recess at 10 o'clock. It's 10:03. and so she, please let him know that there's a gray area. And sometimes we run over and I'm not lying. So I sat back and I was like, honey, why are you doing this? Why do you keep doing this? And he said, it's not me, mommy. My mouth made me do it. And I was like, well, you've got to be a better boss of your mouth. And then I was like, wait a minute. Hey, come with me. So we went into the study. We pulled out pieces of paper, blank paper. I wrote mouth, ears, nose, hands, feet, everything on separate pieces of paper. I had him draw each body part. And then we started talking about what each body part did. So hands could hold something carefully. They can clap. They can shake hands. Eyes can look at pretty things. They can cry when they're sad. They can close when it's time to go to sleep. And then your mouth. You should say nice words with a friendly voice, eat healthy food, and keep it shut. that was my whole premise of writing the book, was to teach my son there's a time and a place to keep your mouth shut. So we talked about all that. We talked about things that they shouldn't do. You shouldn't hit with your hands. You shouldn't kick with your feet unless it's a soccer ball. Things like that. We just talked about all the various different things. We wrote down the good things. We did not write down the things you shouldn't do. That was just for discussion. So we had the whole little book. We stapled it together, and we created our first I'm the Boss of Me. I'm the boss of my hands, my mouth, my eyes, all this stuff. And we used it as a learning tool. So I wish I could say it changed overnight and that he immediately became the boss of himself and that he, the next day he went in and was perfect. He didn't, but we were able to use it. We would use it to say, if he had something going on, I'd be like, honey, why were you not a good boss? And he's like, well, I was sad, or, oh, this frustrated me. But he was able to take that personal accountability piece. I realized I hadn't taught him that. I was teaching him that kind of other people were in control. I need to tell you to stop. Did your teacher tell you this? Are you? But what I needed to do was teach him he needed to listen.
Yeah.
He needed to write down his homework assignments. He needed to do all this stuff. It was all on him. So it took several years, but you know what? He's got a full academic scholarship, and I'd love to say a lot of it was the book.
Mhm.
But most of it's him because he's a smart kid and because he's the boss of him. He had kind of a little flub his first semester, freshman year, where he thought he was going to be a business major because he is, when it comes to numbers, he's crazy smart. Like he can do things in his head mathematically that like it's mind boggling. Teachers sit back and are like, show your work. And he's like, I don't need to. So, they'll put an equation up on the board and he can stand up and go, the answer's 5. And, without, so he's one of those people. So we thought business, this will be great. You'll love it. It's all numbers. He hated it. He came home and was like, Mom, it's horrible. I can't stand it. I'm miserable. And so we kind of did okay, well, what do you want to do?
Mhm.
This is your college career. This is what you want to do. What are you going to do for the rest of your life? I can tell you what to do. I thought business was going to be your thing. You thought business was going to be your thing. We were both wrong. Fix it. So we looked around, and what's nice is he still comes to me and asks my opinion. And I give him my opinion. And there are times when our opinions are opposite ends, but
Right.
he hears my opinion and then goes off and makes his own choices.
Mhm.
So he went and he switched his major to sustainability, which is something that is much more near and dear to his heart. When we lived in Seattle, we had like 5 different recycling things that he was in charge of because I didn't want to do them. So there was paper, there's dirty paper, that's like pizza boxes and stuff, glass, plastic, aluminum and tin, things like that. So now he's going back to what his kind of childhood stuff was. He had a class in soil, different types of soil and sustainability and how to make soils richer. And he was thrilled with it. He's like, oh, Mom, there's so many cool things about dirt. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a little boy would.
No,
Yeah, dirt's awesome.
I think that's becoming like a popular major, and it's really nice to hear that this generation cares about the earth and what's going to happen. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's so lovely.
yeah. So, and he's
Yeah.
thrilled and he's energized to go to every class, even the classes that like is not really his
Right.
gig, as it were. He's
Yeah.
still like, all right, well, this is going to fit in to what I want to do. And he had taken enough business classes along the way that he might just minor in business. I think he only has 2 classes to take in order to fulfill a minor in business. So hopefully he'll come up with something that saves the earth, gets him, excited about going to work every day. It's just nice seeing your kids grow and flourish. So
Absolutely. So tell a little bit about the book and then about the series that you plan to do following.
sure. So here, I have it right here. It's just a little book called I'm the Boss of Me. What it is, it's just a simple rhyme. It's, I'm the boss of me from my head to my toes, my mouth, ears, and nose. And then it goes on and it just talks about all the little body parts. I wrote it originally to help my son learn how to keep his mouth shut. And that was 13 years ago. We didn't get time to publish it or do anything. We always said we were going to. But as life happens, and we weren't able to do anything. I was busy being a mom. I was busy being a wife. I was busy just with life. And even though we have the original one that we did 13 years ago stapled, I still have that one with all his little pictures. We just never got around to it. You mentioned that I'm a cancer survivor. So I had breast cancer. I rediscovered breast cancer when I was 49. I went in for a double mastectomy, straight to implant. And my husband said, honey, you don't have to work and you're recovering from cancer. What is something that you really want to do? And I said, I want to write, I'm the boss of me. I want to finally get that lesson out there.
Mhm.
So I did. I hired a good friend of mine's son to be the illustrator. He's now a professional animator out in LA, but he had just graduated from film school a year ago. And so Oscar did all these great illustrations. It's a board book, and there are all kinds of ways you can self publish. With the board book, you can't self publish. So you
Okay.
can't do print on, yeah, you can't do print on demand. You can't do all these various different things that other authors can do when they self-publish. So I had to go buy 1,020 copies of the board book in order to have the board book. So the fortunate thing is when my son got the full academic scholarship to college, I had a few extra funds lying around and I said, "Hey, honey, I'm going to make it happen." And he was like, "That's awesome." So I got the board book made. I sourced it myself. I did all these things. I got it formatted, and Oscar did all these things. And just this February, 1,020 of them showed up on my front door. February 10th. My husband and I were like, okay, now what do we do? What are we going to do with these 1,020 books? So I created a little website, imthebossofme.com. I forwarded them to different teachers and child psychologists and child specialists and things. Probably should have done that a little ahead of time. And was like, what do you guys think? I have one child psychologist in Alexandria, Virginia, Dr. Amy Parks. She's amazing. She has 3 different practices called the Wise Families. She services children in Alexandria, Arlington, all over the place.
Mhm.
She bought 120 copies and said, "I'm giving these to preschools throughout the Washington, D.C. area. This is something that all kids need." And I was like, oh, yes, it is. That sounds fantastic. What ended up happening, which I didn't plan on, well, I planned on doing 2 things. There are 3 themes to this book. The
Mhm.
first theme is I'm the boss of me and my body parts, personal responsibility, personal accountability, all that. That was a very important thing for me. The next thing was diversity. I wanted any child to be able to pick up this book and look at it and say, hey, that looks like me. So, all the children in the book, I have as many different skin tones, hair colors, designs. I have a child in a wheelchair. I have a child with glasses. I have a little girl with a bindi. I wanted to make sure anybody could pick up the book and feel like, hey, that looks like me, so I can be the boss of me. So those are the 2 things that I really was focusing on. The wonderful happenstance that I had no idea was there's a 3rd theme in there, and that is body safety. That is, I'm the boss of my body. And so you can say to somebody, no, you can't touch my body. I had no idea that that was part of the message when I wrote it. I truly was just trying to get my son to keep his mouth shut. But it turns out those are the 3 big things that people, professionals, are taking away from this book. And they're screaming it to the mountains. I've teamed up with a group called the Child Rescue Coalition, and their only thing that they do is trying to get child child pornography off the internet. That's all they do. And they want to write, I'm the boss of me in my internet safety, or I'm the boss of me in my online presence. So I have people that are coming in. I have a PhD from Johns Hopkins that wants to write, I'm the boss of me in my brain. I have all kinds. So it's this little children's book that, to keep my son's mouth shut, is turning into this amazing kind of movement of people taking accountability for themselves, people being able to do things. I want to grow it into an adult series where, like, I'm the boss of me in my car, where you can sit back and say, okay, this is when we change the tires, this is how you get the oil changed, and all these different things, and kind of like a dummies series. But who wants to be a dummy or an idiot? I want to be the boss. I want to be the boss of my car.
Yeah, it sounds like it will really expand. What do you want to see in the future with it?
So I want to see, so my whole goal is to really get children to learn from an early age to be responsible for themselves.
Mhm.
And I have an entire generation of can-do kids that can do what they want, that can actualize their life to their best potential. Um, I just think, I think that's kind of been taken away from people, that people don't feel they can do things anymore. And I just believe there's so much you can do. So if I can get start them young. I've got the board book. The next book is almost done. It's a continuation of the board book. It has a superhero in it. It has American Indian children in it. It has just all kinds of just beautiful, more diverse things. And it talks about even more what you can do. There's one where it's the thing I could never do in grade school. I can sit and be still. I couldn't do that. If you ask any of my teachers, I was the kid that was always kicking their leg and, had boundless energy. So I want to see an entire generation of can-do kids. I want to see grown-ups taking accountability and being responsible for their lives. And I think I've learned so much from being a mom and from my son, that if some parents read this book to their kids and they get like, wait, I can do that. I can be the boss of me. I've had one woman write into me. She said, I'm a grown up, and your little children's book made me turn around some thinking in my head and is making me prioritize things differently. And I just want to thank you. I know you wrote this for children, but you're helping us old people too. And she's only in her 40s, so she's not old. But it was just, it's nice to know that that's a message that can ring true with anybody.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's my goal, is to just get a bunch of can-do kids, can-do people, just having a wonderful, create the life that you want, because you can do it. I have faith that, if you really want to, you can make it happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you might even write one that's just about like making mistakes and moving on from that or learning from that, because I like that message that you talked about earlier too.
Yeah. I'm the boss of me and my failures.
Because you actually learn from your failures, but we as a culture, for whatever reason, we're teaching people to not, everything has to be correct. Like in school, like you're always, your goal is to be doing everything correct. And so I don't even think it's taught in school that it's okay to make mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree, because, I have had different bosses throughout my life, and they always say to me, they're like, because I'll run in, I'll go like, oh my gosh, I made the biggest mistake. And they're like, okay, first of all, close the door. Second of all, they're like, what'd you do?
They're like, what do I do with her?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I really messed up. Help me fix this so that, it's okay. I have one boss whose mom had a stroke last year. Her mom's only 64, and she's just a beautiful, beautiful person and beautiful soul. And she had a stroke, and my boss, Carrie, had been sitting back saying, I can't wait when you do your children's book, because we always joke around with a name like Casey Waesche. You kind of have to write children's books. It's too cute. You have to. So I did the book. I sent it to her because she has nephews. And I said, here, these are for your nephews. This is great. And she texted me back and she said, this book is fantastic. I just want to let you know, I'm using it with my mom. It's teaching her how to read again. And they send me videos and I get updates, and in the beginning, she's really having a hard time learning how to read again. The last video she sent, she only stumbled like once or twice. And it brings tears to my eyes. People are taking this book and using it for things I never knew was possible. Helping a stroke victim recover. That just, right. I guarantee I did not write the book with that intention.
Yeah.
But that's what happens. That's what's going on. The intention of the book, again, my son to keep his mouth shut, but I also have little animals in all the corners. So when you're reading to children, you can say, what does the dog say? And depending on your culture, like we always said, woof, woof. I know, I can't remember it. In the Russian culture, it's a different world. So you can sit back and whatever culture can talk about what that is. I'm in the process of getting it translated into Spanish and Russian. And then if anyone wants to help me translate it into French and German and all that, I'd love to get it in as many languages as we possibly can, because it really is just becoming this movement that I hope is really going to help people.
Well, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
It's so special. It's so wonderful. And I love that you pulled it out and you still did it.
Yeah, it took 13 years.
Yeah.
You know, I have the original. I have to go get the original and just show it to my son again. But yeah, it took 13 years in the making. Lots of failures, lots of successes, lots of happiness, lots of sadness, and now it's here. And it's a real joy I have being able to share it. And the true joy, other than, being like, yay, I did it, is, which by the way is what every kid wants. Oh, and I have to say, this is a guide on how to be the boss of you, not how to be bossy. Those are two different things.
Right.
I made it to help kids, I thought, with diversity and with being responsible and stuff. There's also the body safety thing. So many stroke victims, it's just taking on its life of its own, that everyone's getting a slightly different message out of it.
Right.
And I'm just a mom that, wanted my son to keep his mouth shut.
So I like to ask people, what do you feel humanity needs to work on to make our world a better place?
Accountability. I really think we are, if we don't start taking accountability for what we're doing, we are on a crash course to disaster. And I think that's on a personal level, that's on a professional level, that's on a global level. I can't think of something that humanity needs more in this exact moment at this exact time than accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that's why the book was able to be published now. It's a message that needs to get out, and now is the time when I had the chance to do it. So I just want accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, grown-ups especially.
Yes, that's a fantastic message. Thank you so much. And how will people find you or find the books?
So the easiest way is on my website, which is www.imthebossofme.com. So it's, just spell that out, all one word. You can buy the book there. I've got t-shirts, I got little book bags, I got stickers, tattoos, all kinds of stuff. So people can really wear the message if they want. Kids are loving the little t-shirts and stuff.
Aww.
And I have a little book bag that the book fits right in. And I get all these pictures from, little sassy kids. Little, there's a lion, or they have the animals all in a little circle. And, they wear their lion t-shirt. There's one kid that has his linen. It's Linon. It's like, my linen. And it's just, they're the cutest things. They're taking it. Oh, I've had two families tell me that their 2-year-olds had no real interest in books. They were sitting back, they're like, well, maybe they won't read. They read I'm the Boss of Me, and the kids now are walking around interested in reading. Like, I'm the boss of me. And they send me videos and they send me pictures, and I don't believe in putting them up on the internet because I think that's, I just want to be careful with that.
Right.
But it's just adorable. It just is.
Yeah, that uplifts you. I love that. So you're having such good feedback, so you're on the right track.
Yay. I hope so. I'm excited.
Definitely. Thank you, Casey. Thank you for sharing about yourself. It's fun to learn about you, and I love the book, and I'm sure this will help people learn more about it, and it'll be neat to see what it becomes.
Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time and letting me share it. One of the things that, since I am self-publishing, I'm doing it all on my own. So when I get to, be on a show like yours, when you invite me onto your podcast, it really helps me get the word out there. And so thank you. I really appreciate that. And the parents that have little ones that need to learn to be bosses of themselves will appreciate it too.
Definitely. I would have liked it when my kids were young. Yeah, it's funny, something that you don't think that you're probably teaching them. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
was a good perspective. It's so true. We teach them to listen to people, but we're not teaching them to. I think what it comes down to is learning to love themselves and have self accountability, like what you said. So,
Yeah. Well, and there are things you can do to where you say, hey, I need you to be the boss of your feet and stand still over there, or I'm going to be the boss of you and tell you to stand still. And no kid, I can't tell you, all kids are like, you're not the boss of me. So, do you want me to be the boss of you, or are you going to be the boss of your feet and
mhm,
stand still? So you're still able to control the behavior. You give them the choice of controlling the behavior, and they know that, well, if I don't stand, they're going to be the boss of me, and maybe I have to go to the principal's office, or maybe I don't get a snack, or
right.
I don't know, whatever it may be, but so you be the boss of you so I don't have to be. And that's something that it's pretty awesome. I still say it to my son every now and again. I'm like, do I need the boss of you? He's like, no, mom, I've got it. I'm like, all right, well, let me know if you need me to be the boss.
It's really cute. Yeah, and I could see it being used so many places, and teachers, using it as part of their curriculum. And then, like you say, the little tattoos. Kids love those tattoos. So that'd be like such a good reward system.
So, and what you do is there are two ways to do it. If you're good, you get a tattoo, or you're going out in public. So put on the tattoo, and you can just like say that your child is doing something and you don't know, you're across the room and you don't want to run across the room, or, yell or scream or whatever. You can just go and touch your shoulder where the tattoo is. It stops the child in that instant. And the child goes, what am I doing right now that mom or dad or my caretaker is saying, hey, right here? Then they can self correct without a scene or embarrassment or any of the other different things that could happen. So they're neat ways you can be proactive in giving them, the way to be the boss of themselves. So
Did you come
yeah,
up with that on your own too?
I did.
Oh, it's a great idea. So when I have grandchildren, I will definitely be buying this.
That's it. Well, and so as you have children that I'm going to be doing, I'm the boss of me and my homework. I'm the boss of me and my, college major. That's coming. It's not, right now I'm still working on I'm the boss of me and my recycling. My son is insistent with his, sustainability that we need to get, I'm the
Right.
boss of my recycling.
That's adorable.
So, I have all these things that you won't have to wait till grandchildren. Hopefully in a couple of years, I'll have these thought leaders that are writing under the I'm the boss of me brand. And I'm telling you, if you have any ideas, say I'm the boss of me in my podcast, you want to write that, let me know. I'd be happy to
It's
get
a
it
great
out.
idea. It's a fantastic idea. Yeah. You've opened the doors for so many channels. So
I
beautiful.
hope.
So
Well,
I'm
my
excited.
son,
Thank your son. Yes. So we'll thank your son. His name's Owen, correct?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you, Casey. Thank you for taking the time. I hope you have a great vacation or everything works out smoothly for you.
It will. Thank you. I really appreciate being on your show. Have a wonderful day.
Too. Take care.
Thanks. Bye now.
Bye.